Now, I have some issues. Tell me when my 5 minutes is up. Yeah, tell me. There are issues, as I said in the Killeen Daily Herald, there are issues in this proposition that I have concerns about. I think it should be age limit 21. Taking away the police officer's right to do a search based on smell, that's for legalization bills, not decrim bills. If we were legalizing marijuana, we could have a discussion about taking away officers' right to do search based on smell. This is not a legalization bill, it's a decrim bill. I'm a professional cannabis activist. This is not how we do it on the smell issue. And the other issue I have is there is absolutely no reason why any of our officers, anybody should say anything about punitive action against any of our officers related to this ordinance. So I hope that we pass the ordinance. I'll vote in favor of it. But I also hope after we pass it that we amend it to resolve these three issues that I just mentioned. Who's next?
Thank you, sir. Next, we will go to Chris. The floor is yours.
Yeah, hi, ladies and gentlemen. This is Chris Bray, candidate for County Commissioner, Precinct 4. And just want to let you know, first of all, I want to thank Dave Bass for the forum that he organized that we executed yesterday at the Killeen Senior Center at the Lions Club Park. It was a great forum. I really wish more people would come out for the opportunity to be heard. And so I'm going to say this in jest right now. I like Dave. He's a social activist, and that's why he's voting in favor of Prop A. But and he'll acknowledge that. And I share a lot of the same things that have been said in the sense that I support medicinal marijuana. And Dave knows that. I'm a veteran, and I understand it does have medicinal properties, and I don't agree that it should be a Schedule 1 because that says there's no, on the federal list, because that says there's no medicinal properties, and I don't agree with that. However, getting back to this proposition, I'm the only candidate up here, and probably the only one that's you're going to encounter that's endorsed by the Killeen Fraternal Order Police, and I've been speaking for them, and I'm going to continue to do that because they've pretty much given me that carte blanche to do. And I will tell you there are multiple provisions on this Prop A proposition that you really have to weigh. Does the good outweigh the bad? And I will tell you that the bad parts of this proposition far outweigh the good that it might bring. And I agree with Dave about the arrest things and, you know, for low-level marijuana and all that. But again, and as Dave knows, and as he will acknowledge, that's a state-level issue. It is not a city-level issue. And I will tell you directly, straight from the Killeen Police Department chief's lips, if this proposition passes, because all the social activists turned out and voted for it, well, good for you. Pat yourself on the back, feel good. But it's not going to change anything in Killeen for police enforcement. They have told me they're not going to do that. They're sworn to uphold state and federal law. And if you elect me as commissioner, I'm going to be sworn to do the same thing. Whether I like the law or not, the law is the law. And if you don't like the law, then you have to work to change it. That's just how the system works. Okay, and you can throw stones at the system all day. You can throw stones at the system all day, but that's how the system works. Now, again, as I said the other day, for those of you who came to that forum, the onerous parts of this proposition, as I think some of the panel members already mentioned, the police will no longer be able to use the smell, the odor of marijuana as reason, probable cause for search and seizure. And all the police will tell you that typically leads to additional crimes. And when they find somebody, they stop somebody in a car, they smell marijuana, they do a search on the car, they're finding illegal guns, additional drugs, and actually those people get additional charges. They don't even get charged with the marijuana because they found whatever, dead bodies in the back of the car, or whatever the case may be, something worse than just a small level of marijuana. And that is a tool that the police use to control crime in Killeen. And Lord knows everybody, every citizen in here must recognize that we need to control crime in Killeen. We do not need to take tools away from the police department. Also, there's this belief, and keep in mind this proposition was put together by one side of the aisle, okay? this wasn't a joint venture. It was written in a vacuum by a group of people who favor legalization, decriminalization of marijuana. Okay, that's great. But anything that's ever done at the state level has input from both sides of the aisle. Everybody's voice gets heard. And then, as Dave said, there's regulations, there's age restrictions that are put into things, whether it's 21 years or whatever the case may be. There are amounts that are become tolerable, whether that's 1 ounce, or in this particular proposition, they want decriminalization of 4 ounces. And I will tell you right now, we had a demonstration out at the forum the other day. Most people don't even recognize how much 4 ounces is. It's a lot. And although there's no legal statute that says that 4 ounces is related to street dealing, the Killeen Police Department will tell you that if, say, they catch somebody walking down the street with 4 ounces, that person is likely a dealer. They're not using that for their personal use. 1 ounce is typically regarded in a lot of states, and you can go look this up, you can Google it, across the United States, and those states that have passed laws for decriminalization, they're typically for 1 ounce or less. They're not 4 ounces. So there's a lot of ludicrous parts to this proposal, not even to include the part that if any officer violates any part of that proposition, they can be disciplined. Well, the chief says they're not going to discipline their people. And what's going to happen if this thing passes? You're going to put the city council in a difficult position, because then they have to decide whether to discard it or move forward with it. And then if they move forward with it, you're going to pit the city against the Killeen Police Department, because they're not going to enforce it. So, and the Killeen Police Department has already said, when you try and force me to enforce it, lawsuits are going to start. Okay? And then those are certainly going to get ugly, and I'm going to be on the side of the lawsuits, because guess what? They're going to win. State law trumps this little ordinance, municipal ordinance that people think is going to somehow trump state law. It's not going to happen. Is my time up? I'm passing on.
3 minutes. Okay, at this time, we will have Bobby state his views on this as well. Thank you, sir.
Sure. First off, I'd like to apologize to people with the camera. I'm going to talk to the camera, but we got some folks out here that are citizens that are also here to listen to this too. So I'm going to be talking to all of y'all as well. So no disrespect to the folks watching on camera. I am currently the sitting commissioner in Precinct 2. I don't have the luxury of stating what I would like in a campaign because I'm running for a position. I don't have the luxury of being a citizen who would just like to state what they like or what they'd like to see or what they want. My job, because I swore an oath to the state of Texas and to the federal constitution, the Texas and federal constitutions, is to uphold the law at the county level. The county is an arm of the state. Contrary to popular belief, the county can't even have a referendum vote similar to what the cities are doing. Cities have that ability because the state grants their charters. The state also, Article 11, I think Leo referred to it, Article 11, Section 5, look it up, state constitution, says that cities can exist under charter if they're over 5,000 people, and they may have home rule ordinances. But those ordinances shall not is a very important phrase in that constitution. Shall not means you don't have the option of having ordinances that disagree with state law. It's illegal. So as a city councilman or a commissioner, we have, or police as referred to as earlier, we take an oath to uphold state and federal law. So if I take any position other than what the state law is, I have failed you, the people that I work for, in that oath. Just like if a soldier who takes an oath to do the very same thing decides to not do what he's told in the Army or any other branch, that's a court-martialable offense. So I believe that any sitting elected official who proposes this and supports this illegal activity has already broken their oath to the state and federal constitutions. And more than that, broken their oath to the people they're supposed to represent and should be disqualified from office. So my position is, I believe that decriminalizing marijuana at the city ordinance level is an illegal act, and I cannot therefore support it. I've got some issues, and they've already been mentioned, about some of the secondary, tertiary, quaternary effects of this as you go down that petition or that ordinance, proposed ordinance. But the fact of the matter is that's not going to happen. And it's not going to happen because the cities have already been advised by legal that even if 100% of the people turn out and vote in favor of this proposition, that is their sworn duty to rescind not just some of the problems that Mr. Bass, which I agree with, Mr. Bass has with that ordinance, but will have to rescind the main part, which is decriminalization of marijuana. They cannot codify, which if you understand the law, when this is voted in, it automatically becomes ordinance. So as soon as that hits the code, it's codified as city ordinance, city law. It is an illegal ordinance on the city's books. And so the city will need to meet very quickly. Some of them already, Killeen, Harker Heights is already talking about having a meeting ready to go. So they can meet the 72-hour posting timeline on there prior to the vote even occurring. So they can have a meeting the day after the vote, if the vote passes, so that they can rescind that, because they cannot leave that illegal ordinance on the books, because that jeopardizes state funding. It jeopardizes them personally because they're not following the law. So I'm going to tell you, no matter how this vote goes, vote how you want to vote. Either way, make a social statement if you want, and vote yes, and let people know that people want decriminalized or legalized marijuana in low levels. That's fine. But no matter what the vote is, it's not going to stand in Harker Heights or Killeen. Now here's the big problem with that. You've got 5 people, 5 electors in Killeen, 5 electors in Harker Heights that decided to put this petition out to people to decriminalize marijuana. 2 of which, the first one listed on each of those, are candidates for commissioner in Precinct 2 and Precinct 4. Those 2 candidates went to cities they have no business in. They're commissioner candidates. We don't run cities from the county level. We support them when we can. The cities run themselves. But these 2 candidates purported to have an ordinance that they were going to petition the cities in both Killeen and Harker Heights to pass to decriminalize marijuana. They got the signatures, they went to the city, and then they asked the city to deny that so that it would go to the voters. This is a political ploy to try to get voters. Problem is, 78% of the people polled in Texas are in favor of some type of legalization of marijuana. This isn't a Democrat issue. This isn't a Republican issue. This is a human issue. And so there are just as many Republicans that want some kind of decriminalization as well, or legalization at the state level. But it needs to happen at the state level. Don't let politicians lie to you and manipulate you to vote for them. That's what's wrong with politics now. We don't need that here locally. We need politicians that work for us and represent us by the law. And go to the state and let's work together and try to get that fixed there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very good information there. At this time, we're going to hand it back to Dave to add more to what he was saying earlier and maybe counterpoint points that were made. So
I would like to address, if it's okay, first of all, say I have 100% total respect for former Mayor Jose Segarra and current council member. But he said 2 things yesterday that I want to rebut, if I can. Is that okay? The former Mayor Segarra said that in Killeen, the worst crime statistic is domestic violence. And he said marijuana is a contributor to that. I am a proud graduate of the Killeen Citizens Police Academy. I attended it in 2010, and I recommend all of you attend it too. It's a fantastic course. And I did, as part of our course, I did a ride-along on a weekend with one of our police officers. And I asked our police officer when I did that ride-along, and it was Friday night, maybe Saturday night, it was weekend night. And I'm telling you what, there was a lot of bad stuff going on in Killeen after hours. And I asked the police officer that I rode with, and then I witnessed this with my own eyes. I said, so what are the worst problems we're going to face tonight on our ride? Because I rode the night shift, and I stayed with him all night. And he said, the problems you're going to see tonight is most of the people that we get called out to deal with are drunk, and they're all heavily armed. And that is what I saw with my own eyes. a whole lot of people drunk on alcohol, being violent, and the police having to be, they were professional. I was highly impressed seeing them deal with people that they knew were heavily armed. And they diffused every situation that night. But he did not tell me the biggest problem we're going to see tonight is a whole bunch of people high on marijuana and they're all armed. That's not what I saw. That's not what he told me. I do not believe under any circumstances that marijuana causes domestic abuse. His other point was that passing this ordinance could have a negative impact on Fort Hood. I do not believe that. There's 19 legal states in the United States right now. All of those states have military bases. Fort Carson did not shut down just because Colorado legalized marijuana. And Fort Hood's not going to have any negative repercussions if Killeen passes this little decrim ordinance. So I love and respect former Mayor Jose Segarra, current council member, but I just wanted to rebut those two statements.
Okay, thank you, sir. Yes, we'll go back to this. We got some time here.
Just a little rebut to Dave's rebut. First of all, in Colorado, and Dave is correct, Fort Carson didn't shut down, but I spent a summer up in Colorado Springs back in 2018, and I can tell you, El Paso County is the only county up there that did not legalize marijuana. It's legalized in all the other counties in Colorado, and that was deliberate. And I can tell you, I watch the news every day, and the sheriff's offices were out in the hills of, what is that, Pikes Peak Mountain up there. I used to trout fish all the time up there. It was great, and they were capturing humongous pot fields you see every day, and they were spending tons of resources getting the pot out of the, what was basically federal lands, because it was so prevalent up there, and they were spending enormous amounts of money fighting that. But to Dave's comment, he's correct. Colorado Springs, because it's a huge military complex, but Fort Carson didn't go away. But of course, they didn't legalize it.
Well, the fact is, it is legal in that county, but in legal states, you can't just grow those massive grow operations. You have to have a license, and counties in legal states generally have the right, municipalities, to prohibit dispensaries. So it's not illegal, but they can't have dispensaries there. It's like in Texas, where municipalities can say, we're not going to have any liquor stores. So in a lot of legal states, they give the municipalities the power to say, we're not going to have any marijuana dispensaries. But definitely, marijuana is legal right outside the gates of Fort Carson. But you can't just have a massive grow operation, and you can't open a dispensary in that area if that municipality has said that you can't. But it's legal in the entire state of Texas. I mean, in the entire state of Colorado, not Texas yet.
Okay. This time, we will turn it over to Melissa Brown for her comment.
Thank you. I feel like I'm caught in the middle of something here. So first of all, I'd like to thank Leo Gukaizen. This was his idea. He put it together. I'd also like to thank Commissioner Bobby Woodson and Commissioner candidate Chris Bray for coming out. For the record, every candidate who's running for Justice of the Peace, County Commissioner, and State Representative were invited to come out today so they could at least meet with the people, give their opinions, and defend their position if they wanted to. So I'd like to take the time to thank both of these gentlemen for taking time out of their day to come and do this today. Thank you to David Bass. He is our sole survivor who's willing to come out and defend the position, vote yes on Prop A, and I think it's important that we have that balance. So there's been a lot of discussion already today about the potential pros and cons of this as far as helping people. I know that yesterday there was discussion about on the sidelines about medicinal marijuana. Medicinal marijuana is legal in Texas. I think there are 250 qualifying conditions now.
Well, technically, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
So 250 qualifying conditions now that you can go get a legal medicinal marijuana card. If you have the marijuana card already, as long as you're underneath the limit legally prescribed by law, the police are going to leave you alone. I think that it's important to note that this is more than just, is it allowable or not? My biggest concern with this, and it was kind of alluded to earlier, is that I'm sorry. There's more rebuttal and rebuttals.
Right. People cannot own dispensaries and sell. People cannot own dispensaries and sell it, but using it is legal.
Okay, but it's the city of Colorado Springs opted out of the sale of recreational
Sale.
marijuana
Sale. Not
within its jurisdiction.
So for the record, what we've clarified is that in Colorado Springs, you can possess and you can use, you cannot purchase, sell, or grow.
Medicinal marijuana, however, is allowed to be produced and sold to registered medical marijuana patients.
And so like Texas, even in Colorado Springs, medicinal marijuana, as long as you have the card, is legal and you're able to do that. So to go back to the point that I was trying to make, which is my bigger concern with this is that this is giving a sense of false security to our citizens. It was mentioned earlier that if it passes, it means that Killeen Police Department wouldn't be able to arrest anybody for possession of marijuana. It does not prevent the constables or the sheriff, DPS, any other law enforcement agency, including Killeen ISD, are still able to enforce the current laws that are on the books in the state of Texas. I think that's important to realize because what my fear is that this passes in Killeen and or Harker Heights, and citizens feel like they are safe to now possess marijuana in public, and they get arrested for it by another law enforcement agency. This isn't going to actually change anything for anyone. There's been talk about going to the state and having the state legalize it, and I do agree that that's where the law needs to change. I'd like to say, though, that there was part of the pro side of this has been no one deserves to have their life ruined because they have a small amount of marijuana, a simple possession charge. Just to point out, the police do not give you a charge. The police do not give you a sentence. The police are not the one that put anything on your permanent record. Where that discretion comes in is at the district attorney's office and the judge. So the district attorney or the county prosecutor, whichever one the person would go before, they are the person that would determine A, if any charges are officially filed against the person, what those charges are, and then B, they would be the ones to decide if they're going to have a plea bargain where they can plea it down to a Class C misdemeanor, where you're going to be able to get deferred adjudication and you get that second chance or that third chance. That's where right now, currently, because of the way the law is, we can make sure that no one's life is ruined over a small, simple possession. So if we feel like that is not being done, what I encourage people to do is pay attention in 2024, because that is when our district attorney and our county prosecutor are back on the ballot. And this all goes back to voting.
District attorney and county attorney.
I'm sorry, county attorney. District attorney and county attorney, to make sure we have the correct terms when you look at the ballot. That is when they're up for re-election, is 2024. So start paying attention to that. See if there's anybody who will be challenging them. If you want change, actively be part of the change. I encourage people to run for your city council, your school board, your commissioner. If you're an attorney, hey, 2024, you have an opportunity, if you disagree with how this is going, to run for either the district attorney or the county attorney position, and then you can advise the judge on wanting to have a plea bargain for deferred adjudication. You can choose to not accept the charges or pursue charges against someone. But in the meantime, we can't take a tool away from the police department based on everything that's been said, both from people who are in favor of passing Proposition A and people who are against passing Proposition A. My primary concern is that you come out and vote, regardless of how you feel about it. And it's going to be up to our city council members ultimately to decide what happens after that. If it passes, the council has to decide if they feel like this is a legal ordinance and they leave it on the book, or if they feel like it is an illegal ordinance and they rescind it or repeal it. Regardless of how that happens, yes, the city attorneys will give advice. The city council members are the ones who will make that ultimate decision. I would like to make a plea to city council members, though, to remember that this is, again, giving that false sense of security to our citizens, but also we've heard that it could potentially put our state funding at risk. One of the biggest projects we have going on right now is Chaparral Road. Our primary funding mechanism for that is K-Tempo, which is a combination of state and federal funding. If the state decides that they don't want to fund us because we have a law in our books that they feel is inappropriate, there is the potential that we could lose that. And I just want everyone to keep that in mind. But ultimately, get informed. Thank you so much for listening, tuning in, for coming out. I know there's going to be an opportunity for anybody to ask questions or speak their opinion who's here. But thank you to everybody who did come out. Thank you for everyone who spoke, for all the opinions. And before I end, I will turn it back over to Leoga Kaizen, and thank you again to you for putting this together.
Okay, before we wind this down, Bobby would like to clarify something. So if you hand in the mic, please, and I'd like to give everybody the opportunity to voice their opinion or go with the facts.
Yeah, I'm sorry, not really clarify anything. What Melissa said is correct. But I just want everybody to be aware. I've looked into, since this discussion started, looked into some of the numbers in our jail. Keep in mind, everybody in our jail is, they're not guilty yet. They're waiting on trial. So they are innocent until proven guilty, pre-adjudicated. We don't have anybody in our jail now that is in the jail, and we haven't for some time, that has been arrested simply on a Class A misdemeanor, Class B misdemeanor marijuana possession. Our police are not taking time to take all the time it takes to take somebody down there and arrest them and put them in jail, process and write all the reports, when they have much more worrisome crimes to handle. To David's point, they've got some aggravated, some violent folks out there they're trying to get. So they're not going around hunting for this, and we don't want to put them in the jail. And even if they do get arrested for some reasons, we don't keep them in the jail. And from talking to our law enforcement, two things typically. If it's someone who is a repeat offender and they bust them on misdemeanor marijuana possession, they will use that as a reason to try to get them off the streets because they're aggravated somewhere else, or may be aggravated, particularly if they find other crimes. They've got a weapon, or they've caught them in a fight or something like that. If they're going to be a danger to themselves or to the society, they'll put them in the jail as long as they can to keep us safe. Second reason is we have a lot of juveniles that are involved in gang activity around here, and not everybody that smokes marijuana is a member of a gang, but everybody that's in a gang smokes marijuana because they have to. If you're not participating in the gang activity, then you're not part of the gang because they can't trust you. So we get a lot of juveniles that smoke marijuana that the police know are associated with gang members. So sometimes they'll bust them on that and have a legal reason to hold them, so they can talk to them and they can get them off the street and get them away from those gangs. So that's a good tool to use to do that. Now, again, I want to preface that with, when you're talking about our county attorneys and our county, our district attorneys, they're not prosecuting people for this right now unless they're repeat offenders or they're aggravated offenders, and that's just another charge they're tacked on there. They're not wasting their time with that, honestly. They put them on a deferred adjudication. You stay off and don't get caught, and it just goes away. The whole thing, the whole record goes away. If you're a juvenile and you don't get in trouble anymore, by the time you're an adult, that goes away. That's not on your record. It's a juvenile record. So we're not trying to ruin anybody's lives. I don't think any of our judges or our attorneys are trying to ruin anybody's lives, and they're very reasonable when it comes to these things, particularly with juveniles. And you can talk to our juvenile directors, juvenile services director, if you want to know more about that. But I just want everybody to understand that even if we pass this, and we very well may, because 78%, we know 78% of Texans want some form of legalization of marijuana. Our House in the last session, by over an 80% margin, passed a bill that was 1 ounce or less with automatic expungement procedures for those who have already been prosecuted for misdemeanor AB crimes, marijuana possession. The Senate didn't see it. The Senate didn't take it. The Senate didn't even bring it up for discussion because our lieutenant governor was very much against it and didn't allow that to come out of committee. So if you don't like what's going on in the state with marijuana, talk to Dan Patrick. He's our lieutenant governor, and he has reasons for it. I'm not chunking rocks at him, but he's the one you need to really look at if you want to. And you've been there. You tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
Okay. I just want to. I think we all agree on that. This needs to happen at the state level to have the appropriate controls in place and the appropriate law enforcement training in place, because if we legalize marijuana just like we've legalized alcohol, we need the police to enforce those laws. We don't need to be fighting against the police and setting them up for failure, because that sets us up for failure. So we need to take care of these and get all the law right in Texas. We've learned from other states. We want to not make the same mistakes they have. We want to get it right here if we do it at all. And that needs to happen at the state level. If we, to Melissa's point, if we make this a confusion effort here with this passing this locally, let's say it passes by a wide margin, goes to the city, and the city says, well, we can't leave this on the books, we got to take it away. Everybody's going to know it got voted for. That's going to be big news, guaranteed. But the only place you'll see where the city rescinded it is going to be in the newspaper. How many people read the newspapers? Some, but not everybody. And unfortunately, our juveniles and our younger folks don't read newspaper a whole lot anymore. They're not going to get the word, and they're going to go out, and they are going to get arrested by Killeen PD and busted, and that's going to be problematic. This whole idea, again, are people that are looking for political gain, that have signed this, gotten you to sign this petition without giving you the full facts, and manipulated you to vote a certain way for them. They wanted you to vote for them, and this petition will not be able to stand legally, and it'll go away. So if you want this to mean real change, let's talk to our state legislators, our congressmen and our representatives. They are working on this. They already have. They've made the laws a little bit looser every session because they're trying to do it smartly and make it right. And I think they'll get there. But let's not cause our community a lot of trouble with this proposition and confuse people.
Let me agree with Bobby and say one more time. The age limit on this should be 21. I'm a professional state level cannabis activist. We always say, all over the United States, the age limit should be 21. I 100% agree.
What's the age limit on this?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but every time I read the ordinance, what I see that really concerns me is if a 16-year-old person is caught with 4 ounces of marijuana, the police has to let that 16-year-old go. If I'm reading this ordinance correct.
That's correct.
That's not right. That's not right. So what do the police do if they find a teenager with any amount of marijuana, but especially, an ounce, 2 ounce, 3 ounce, 4 ounce? They just let them go on. You're good. The parents don't know. I mean, do they have an obligation to let the parents know? Do they have an obligation to let the school know? We professional cannabis activists say the proper age limit is 21.
Sorry, I promise. We'll get to the citizens in just a moment if they want to. Just to summarize, the position is vote no, or vote yes. But as soon as it passes, the councils need to go in and do a lot of work to revise it, to bring it up to a standard that benefits the community and does not oppose the police. I personally vote no because I feel like if we're going to do it, we need to do it right the first time. Vote no because it's illegal, and if it passes on the books, then according to the interpretation of the law, as it is right now, then it wouldn't be allowed to stay on the books, and so we're passing it for no reason, and then people will have said to their elected officials, overwhelmingly, yes, we want this, but the council then has to say, well, regardless of what you said, we still have to take it away. And then a very firm vote no. So, and so we tried to keep this as balanced as possible. Unfortunately, one of our speakers that got called out at the last moment wasn't able to make it. And like I said, we did invite all of the candidates for state rep, for county commissioner, and for justice of peace to come out and join us. And the only two candidates who arrived are the ones that you see sitting here in front of you. We had 2 commissioners and 1 state rep candidate who were electors on the petition, I believe. No state rep. Okay, so just the 2 county commissioners. Okay, so they were there. If you have questions about why they did that, I encourage you to reach out to them. They have Facebook pages, they have websites, and I believe they've got their phone number on those locations, or you can message them. One last thing, early voting starts tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There are 7 early voting locations.
Starts at 8.
8. It starts at 8
Next
tomorrow.
week is 7 to 7. Tomorrow's 8 to 6.
I'll let Bobby pull up the exact hours, but I'm going to tell you it's Monday through Fridays for the next 2 weeks, and then
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Well, go ahead.
There you go. It's October 24th through the 28th. That's Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 p.m. October 29th is Saturday from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. October 30th, Sunday, from noon to 6 p.m. And then October 31st through November 4th, also Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And you can vote in early voting, you can vote anywhere in the county. There are 7 early voting locations. No matter where you live, you can vote at any one of these 7. And on election day, on November 8th, you can vote anywhere in the county in any precinct, and it'll still count no matter where you're actually registered to vote. Sorry? I believe it's 42.
42 locations. Okay, so there's the election information, and you can find the locations on the county's website. You can also find them on pretty much every candidate's social media outlet. I'll have it on my social media tonight. And let's work on something that would decriminalize marijuana but not criminalize our police.
Okay, before we wrap this up, there were a lot of good points made from the panel, depending on, again, which side that you're on, if you're for, against it, or still undecided. I'd just like to state a couple things here that was brought up during it. In regards to the punishment of the crime itself, again, I agree. That's at the state level, and that's where all this should be going to, is at the state level. Our DA has stated on record that, as Melissa said, the police do not charge. The DA's office charges. And he stated that even if this passes, it's not going to change their process. And a good point was brought up that even if this does pass by a large number, it's still not going to go into effect because of the state laws. And if the city does it and says bypass the state laws, then there will be probably repercussions that they'll have to deal with. To two other things for clarification. When this all started and the individual went up in front of the council to present this to be voted on by the council, they stated that they did a police open records request with the KPD from certain dates. I can't remember the top of my head. But they said at that time 80% of minorities were arrested by KPD for possession of marijuana, low-level possession of marijuana. Just last week in an article, that number dropped the same dates, but the number went from 80 to 92%. So there's misleading information out there, and as everybody stated, you need to do your own research into this and decide for yourself. Don't let your neighbor decide for you or the propaganda out there from the left decide this fact for you. You should do your own research into it, or the left, right or left. You should decide for yourself by doing your own research. And that's one thing I'm a fan of, because that's what I do. I do my own research on matters before I address them. So I'm speaking for myself, not for really anybody else or any of the propaganda that's going on out there. So in closing, I'd like to thank everybody here at the panel today for coming out. And I think a lot of good information has been brought out to the public. And at this time, if anybody in the audience would like to ask a question, we'll open up the panel for this questions. If not, we'll go from here. All right. No one has a question, so that means that hopefully that the information that was put out today answered all their questions, and hopefully it answered your questions out there and on the websites there. So again, I would like to thank everybody here for being here, voicing your opinions and facts. And I hope everybody has a wonderful Sunday. And hopefully it doesn't rain too much Monday. I got stuff I got to do. But in closing, thank you and God bless.
God bless. Thank you for doing this, man. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Bobby.
So listen, first of all, hey, you get to see my face for once in a very few opportunities. But I want to say, I know that the Facebook feed had a little bit of difficulties cutting in and out. I do have it backup recorded, the vast majority of it. I will be taking that recording and uploading it to YouTube, and then I will put that link to the YouTube video up on the Facebook. So thank you all for tuning in. Go vote. Vote early so you don't have to worry about the lines on election day or something coming up. And make sure you do your research first. Thank y'all.
They didn't allow recreation. Right. Well, you can use